have read 12 books this year so far. That is a huge number for me because for many years, I detested reading books. Last year, I got somewhat interested, and this year, I got really into it. And by really into it, I just mean I like the stories. Nala, why are you looking at me like that? I like the stories. I still don't like the process of reading. You know, you have to sit down and focus on one thing. You gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Anyway, so let's start with the book. I am going to go in a chronological order that I finished them. I got into reading books by listening to most of them at first. Out of 12 books, I have listened to 4 of them, and one I both read and listened at the same. Sometimes I read and sometimes I listened to. So yeah, there's that. So in January, I started reading Red Queen. I listened to Red Queen. That's why I finished it so quickly. I gave it 2 stars. I am not continuing with the series because it was way too cringy for me, and there were so many plot holes that I think the story wasn't thought out very well. And even though I loved the world so much, like powers and the blood thing, I liked it, but so many things were so stupid, I couldn't look past them. So I am not going to continue with the series, and the romance was so cringy. I just can't. I came to the realization that YA is not for me. Like, I cringe so much. If I can help it, I don't want to read YA anymore. Also, I rate these books on my Goodreads as well. My link will be down in the description. I rate them on Goodreads and I write reviews, but I do that as soon as I finish the book or 2 days later at maximum. Sometimes I rate them a little too high at the moment because at the moment I feel like I like it, but then when I think about it, when I sit on it, it's like, it wasn't that good or it wasn't that bad, whatever the case may be. My rating hasn't changed for the Red Queen though. Next book I consumed was Verity. I listened to that book and I finished it in 1 day because it got me so interested. I gave that book 4 stars. Like, it was nothing I was expecting. Like, I was so shocked. I wasn't expecting it at all. I enjoyed it a lot, and I gave it 4 stars, not 5, only because like it wasn't the best in my opinion, and there were some plot holes as well. But I looked past them to enjoy the story, like the accident and then the other accident. If you dive too much into details, it doesn't make sense. What I loved the most about Verity was that the ending was open to interpretation. Like, after the last part, the letter, I'm going to say, I don't think that's a spoiler. The letter is the part where you are on your own, like you have to decide for yourself who you are believing. And I love that. I really love that. So 4 stars by me. Next book I listened to was Project Hail Mary. This is sci-fi, and I was not expecting that I would like it so much. I liked it so much so that I gave it 5 stars. My first 5 stars of the year. It was funny, it was witty, and it was really interesting. And thankfully I listened to it because the narrator had, like, in the book. Should I talk about the books itself? The Project Hail Mary is about a school teacher who teaches science, and there's something happening in the universe outside, like outer universe, and some people from the NASA and all of the other space exploring place, they come and get this person, this main character. I forgot his name. Raymond Grace? I am Ryland, Ryland Grace. So these people from the top come and get this Ryland Grace. Ultimately, it is up to them, especially Ryland Grace, to save the world, basically. Because something is happening in the outer space and it is affecting the Earth. It's like climate change, but like it is getting colder. I'm not the best at explaining things. So this Ryland Grace has to basically save the world. I need to check if what I'm saying is spoiler. I don't want it to be spoiler. Or does he? Okay, if I say it will be a spoiler, I guess. Anybody can enjoy this. First of all, this is a very interesting story. And if you are going to read this, you might want to listen to it as well, because there are some points. If you read this, you know what I'm talking about. If you listen to it, it'll be more enjoying. And I'm guessing what the author has intended it to be. Next up, I have All the Colors of Darkness. I have talked about this book in my vlogs. I got it like last year around this time. I started reading it in January, and it took me 4 fucking months to finish it. I know I'm a slow reader, but that's not just on me. That book was so freaking long, and longer than it needed to be, first of all. It dragged for too long and for nothing. There was nothing interesting going on, and there was no there was no detective work at all. Like, in the middle of the book, the detective solved the crime in his mind, but the upper people didn't want to believe him. They just wanted to close the case. And he just kept on pushing the up people. I don't know what they're called. He kept pushing them. Basically, the last half of the book was him trying to convince his coworkers, his boss, to believe his side of the story, like it was the truth, like it wasn't the story. But like, look what he was uncovering, what he found, and it was not interesting at all. Like there were just things happening, nothing interesting going on. 2 stars. I finished 4 books in May. One was If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. Solid 5 stars. I loved it so much. So freaking much. These were 15 or 16-year-olds. Even though that was the case, I loved it so much. And, you know, the friend group, even though it wasn't that reliable, the second chance romance, I think this is called, like, friends to lovers. Childhood friends to strangers to lovers. This is the trope. Even though I don't like friends getting together, I don't like when friends turn into lovers. This was so cute. Like, it was meant to be that they got together. It was so cute. Not cute at all, actually. No. This was such a sad book. I really got attached to the characters, and even though I'm a Game of Thrones fan, where you are trained not be attached to a character because you know that they are going to die sooner or later, but I still got attached and I still got heartbroken. From the back of the book, you know something bad, really bad is going to happen. And the second book, in the guy's perspective, is going to come out this year in October, I think. I am so reading that. I still go back and look at my highlighted sentences, and I still go straight back to that feeling. It's amazing. Next book I finished was Atomic Habits. I started it in December, and I have been religiously applying all the lessons that I've been learning to my life. That book is a godsend, and 5 stars, and I don't want to hear anything bad about that book. Some people don't like it because they say it is too repetitive, but sometimes some of us need to hear it until we understand it. So that book was like a game changer for me. Since that book, my life has done 180. Could not, will not shut up about that book. After that, I listened to Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I wanted to know what was the hype about. And honestly, I gave it 4 stars. But now that I'm thinking about it, like I could give it 3 stars as well, because like since then I haven't even thought about that book. There was nothing monumental in the book, in my opinion. It was a nice book. That's why I gave it 4 stars. Like there was nothing that I could complain about, but it wasn't as good as If He Had Been With Me, in my opinion. So there's that. 4 stars. I could give it 3 right now, but I don't want to change my ratings from now on, actually. I'm going to keep my ratings on Goodreads because the more I read, the more my taste will change, and I will look back and think very differently about the books I've read in the beginning of my reading journey. So yeah, I'm not going to change the stars here, but I will always remember that this book didn't do anything to me. The next book I read, You've Reached Sam by Destin Tao, and I've made a reading vlog with that book. I loved it so much, I gave it 4 stars. But honestly, I have thought about You've Reached Sam more than Evelyn Hugo. I will be the first to admit that this book doesn't actually deserve 4 stars from a writer's perspective, in my opinion, because I Googled the author later, and apparently this book is his debut. It just clicked. Like this book had so many why is this scene here moments. So many of these moments, and I'm guessing this is because he just wanted to tell a story and doesn't really have writing background, because this is not how you do it. I don't have a writing background. Even I know that this is not how it's supposed to be. Maybe it's because I watch a lot of movies and TV shows and I know more or less about storytelling. This is not a complete story, in my opinion. But it was so cute that I couldn't help but give it 4 stars. It was so cute. And there were cute quotes in it. So 4 stars, that's all. Don't go into it expecting some Taylor Jenkins Reid writing, even though I don't get why her writing is this much hyped. Colleen Hoover's writing, on the other hand, I totally understood the hype. Which brings me to my next book, which is Regretting You. Solid 4.5 stars. It's not solid 5 only because it wasn't that 5-star feeling. Just that, only that. But everything else, I loved it. I loved the 34-year-old perspective and 16-year-old perspective. I wasn't stuck in 16-year-old's mind. We were seeing both of them, and they had very complex emotions. Emotions were like this. Like I could not believe what I was reading because of the story. As a reader, I like to imagine myself in the scene and myself as the person who is talking, like how I would feel if I were in their shoes. I would like to imagine the story like that. I could not believe what I was reading, what she was finding out. Oh my God, that was so bad. That was so frustrating. The writing style Colleen Hoover does, like when you see something in the scene, by the end of the movie or book, that should be used in the movie or the book. Colleen Hoover did that perfectly. Anything she mentioned in the beginning of the book, she used it at the end of the book. Chef's kiss. That was so good. I loved it so much. I understand Colleen Hoover hype, and I'm on that train writing it because this is my second book that I loved it so much, and I didn't stop there. The next book I read was They Both Die at the End. That book had intrigued me for a long, long time because I don't know, like death seems interesting to me. I don't know. It is morbid curiosity, I guess. I didn't know what the book was about. I was pleasantly surprised when I realized this was some fictional fantasy stuff. Let me just read the synopsis so that I don't give you any spoilers. Apparently, in this world, you get a call from Deathcast to tell you that you are going to die in the next 24 hours. You don't know how, you don't know when, but you just know that the next day, after the midnight, the next day is your very last day, which is such an interesting concept. I love that so much. And there's an app in this world is called Last Friend, where you can go on and find yourself a very last friend, which is such a morbid concept. Anybody can join in this app. So anyways, these two guys find each other and form a relationship, like they form a friendship. I gave this book 3 stars. I loved it so much. I love the concept so much, but I didn't like the writing style. Actions of some characters didn't make sense, and there were some random people that we get to know that didn't make any sense. Delilah or Deborah, we didn't have to know about them. It felt like some commercial, like when you are bored from these people, it felt like, you know, the squirrel on the Ice Age, you know, during the movie you get glimpses of the squirrel with the nut. It felt like that. Like even that squirrel had more influence in how the story was gonna go. You know, cracking the earth, cracking the glaciers and stuff like that. That's why I gave it 3 stars. But I love the world, I love the concept. There's another book in the series, I think. It is about the first ever people who got the call. I think it could be interesting. Like, the concept is interesting. The story, not so much. That's why I don't want to spend my time reading. I just want to read a summary of it, if that makes sense. I gave it 3.5 stars. I say 3 stars because there is no half stars on Goodreads, but I always make a note on the, review part that if it's up or down. The next book I read was It Ends With Us. I didn't want to read that book for a long, long time because I hate toxic men. And when women drool over toxic men, I hate it. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? I didn't know much further about that. Anyways, I started reading it. I quickly realized it was much more than a toxic relationship between childish man and a teenager woman. In the beginning of the book, she is 23, but she is also talking about her past when she was 15. And honestly, she was more mature when she was 15 than when she is 23. And that annoyed the hell out of me. But the story was very well written. There were so many links. I loved it so much. I love the links so much. Like, for example, they are talking about a tree. I'm going to try to keep it spoiler free. So here we go. If I say any spoilers, I will cut this whole section out. Atlas and Lily are talking about a tree. Would that be a spoiler? I think it would. Anyways, that small line about tree, that tree comes back. We hear about the tree again. It doesn't play a huge role, but it's a hint. Just because it was Colleen Hoover, I knew that tree wasn't there just for the fun. That is all I'm going to say. She uses that method so well, and I'm here for it. I'm going to just read you my Goodreads review because that is all I want to say about this book. It was a 4.5 before I read the author's note. Now it is solid 5. The hype is real. And I stand by it. And the last book I read so far is Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. I finished it last night. I stayed up and read 3 hours straight because I wanted to know how it was going to end. I knew this was a series going in. Like, I was kind of expecting a kind of an end to a story, but it was obviously not an end. For example, in the Hunger Games, at the end of the first movie, I haven't read the books. At the end of the first movie, it could be a standalone. Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to watch the next part. But if you like it, you want to know what's going to happen in the next part. This is finished. But here, nothing is finished. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing because I will keep reading it. The same thing happened with Red Queen as well. At the end of the book, it wasn't just the end, it was just the introduction to the story. I just decided that I'm not going to read Red Queen anymore because of the reasons I have mentioned already. But here, it still ended like that, but I'm going to keep reading it, even though there were some annoying parts here as well, like the romance. I'm also going to read my review on Goodreads. Definitely had many annoying parts. Cringy, lovey-dovey scenes where this is supposed to be a dystopian place. I think memorizing someone's whole body with one's lips wouldn't be in the front of your mind. Like, it was a line. She said, I want to memorize your body with my lips. To be honest, she mentioned that she wants to do this after they are in the clear. I think I'm going to put the sentence in the screen so you can see how cringy it was. So yeah, I will be reading the rest of the series. It's interesting to me how they are going to look. I have seen some spoilers. If I am not mistaken, this villain in the first book is going to be the main love interest, I think. I say I've seen the spoilers, but I'm not sure. Like, I saw some girlies saying Aaron Warner is the best book boyfriend, and I'm not sure if they are talking about Juliet's boyfriend or if they would choose as a boyfriend. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure how it's going to happen. Definitely going to be reading the rest of the book. And yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I like Adam actually, but I don't feel their connection. It feels forced. Warner and Juliet's attraction is more prominent, in my opinion. Maybe that's why after a while the author changed the love interest. Maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe it was her plan all along. I'm not sure. 3 stars. Liked it enough to continue it. Yeah, that's all. These are all the books I have read this year so far. And oh my God, should I talk about the books I want to read? I have some books in mind that I want to read. I don't like to keep myself in one thing because as the year goes on, maybe I would find something else that is much more interesting than what's on my to-read pile. But these are the books that I definitely want to read. First of all, Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue, Renegades, Mindfuck, If We Were Villains, Silent Patient, and generally I want to read more dark romance, only because I don't want to read teenage romance anymore. I want no part in that. I just want adult people, their lives. And I don't want to type adult romance. I don't know if that classifies as smut. I don't want to read smut either. It's just way too cringy to me to read those scenes. Like touches, the kisses, the whispers. Oh my God, it's so cringy to me. I don't want to read about that, okay? So as I said, I don't know much about books or genres, stuff like that. So it may be a little while until I find my exact preferred genre. But yeah, overall, I guess dark romance is what I'm looking for. I'm not sure. Like not swooning over toxic men, you know? If you are going to love a villain, let it be a fantasy villain, not a person who could be doing the same thing in real life. That is not something you swoon over. Anyways, did I mention the Mindfuck series? Yeah, I want to read that as well. And the Housemaid series. I want to read a lot of thrillers and horror stuff. Based on what I liked, if you have any suggestions for me to add to my list, let me know in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. All my socials are in the description below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!